Okay, so today we're going to go over how to make a Kaggle submission. So if you navigate on your homepage in Canvas down to the Exam 3 material module, close to the bottom, there are a lot of links in here, are 3 links for Kaggle. Kaggle Notes and Tips, Project 3, Predicting Home Prices, and then the survey to take afterwards. So if you click on the Kaggle Notes and Tips, you'll see that I have 2 data sets uploaded here. So we have the training data set with the NAs removed, and the test data set with most of the NAs removed. So I just click those and download them, and then I'm going to go into R. And I'm just going to call the training data set train, just because that's what I feel like calling it. Call it in. And look at my downloads, because that's where it goes on my computer. Give it a second to update. There we go. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing with my test file. Click OK, go to my downloads, wait for it to update. And we're good to go. All right, so I'm just going to kind of take a look at them and make sure everything looks good. So let me do the dimension of the train data set, 1460 by 81 columns, and the dimension of the test data set. Okay, it looks good, 1459 by 80. So if you open up those Excel files, you'll see that that's the size of the files. They're quite large, almost 1,500 rows, and 81 columns in the training data set, and 80 columns in the test data set. Now, why is that? That's because the sales price column is included in the training data set. That's the one you're going to use to actually make your regression model to predict a home's selling price. And then the test data set is what you're going to run your model on to make predictions for those homes. And the idea of the game is to get your predictions as close as possible to the actual selling price of all the homes in that test data set. So obviously we can't give you the sales price of that, because then you would know the exact answer. All right, so how do we do this? Well, let's go ahead and create a model. So first let's take a look at our data set. So I can just do summary of the training data set, and that's one way to give me the names of everything, or you could do the first 5 rows, that sort of thing that we've always been doing. So notice that your sales price is called SALE with no space, price with a capital P and a capital S. And let's say that I want to use, I'm going to use the square footage. Where is that one? Let's see. Overall condition, neighborhood. Let's see. Okay, let me look through here. There we go. Here it is, the greater living area. Okay, so let's just say I use that as my only predictor. All right, so I'm going to fit a model, and I'm going to do my LM for my regression, and my Y goes first, the thing I'm trying to predict, right? So that's sale price. And, oh, this is going to return an error because I didn't attach my data set, but we'll go ahead and keep typing. And then I want to use greater living area to predict that. So I'm getting an error message because I didn't attach my data set. It didn't recognize those column names. And then I can do summary of fit and see that I got a regression. Okay, so sales price equals 18,569.026 plus 107.130 times the square footage. All right. Okay, and obviously we've got R squareds and our standard error. The standard error is important when you're trying to make predictions because that tells you how far off your predictions are. Obviously, we don't want to be off by plus minus almost $60,000 when we're estimating a sales price. So I'd want to use other predictors to get that standard error lower. But this is just giving you an example of making one model. Okay, so now if you look through the Kaggle notes and tips in Canvas, you'll see that I gave you some code. So I've already typed in this up here, but you can just copy and paste it in. Okay, this is if I want to look at graphs of the relationship. So let me go ahead and do one of these. You can copy and paste this little function into your R console. And what it'll do is it'll give you scatter plots and box plots of the relationships of each of your single individual predictors with your response variable y. So that way you could look through and see if you have anything that looks like it has a relationship. Like this total basement square footage looks like there might be a relationship, right? The unfinished square footage, maybe not so much. You can also see if you've got a curved relationship and if you should do some kind of a transformation to your variables. So I encourage you to take a look through these and see if it looks like any of them really matter to sales price. Okay, let's see here if we see another good one. There's one that obviously looks like it has a little bit of a curve maybe. Okay, so anyway, that's something else for you to play around with. Now I'm going to go back to the R help page, and we need to figure out how to take our model. So we've got this model right here, right? We've got our intercept and our slope coefficients. Here we only have one slope coefficient because I only had one predictor. And we want to be able to use that model on the test data set to make predictions of those home prices. Now, obviously, it'd be very tedious to hand type in the model every time into our Excel spreadsheet and copy and paste it and drag it down and all that kind of stuff. So we want to do something more automated, and this is where R really shines, okay? This is the kind of thing that it was made for. So what we're going to do is just use a little bit of coding to create our predictions. So I'm going to just copy and paste this code that I've provided into my R console. Now what did this do? What it did was it created a file called, an object called submission. And what I did was I column binded, cbind, my predictions to the ID numbers for the homes. Okay? And then I did column names for them, so it would be named the way that Kaggle needs your project column names to be named. And then what I did was I wrote that CSV file to my hard drive. I called it, I wrote the object submission. I called it upload.csv, and you have to put this row.names equals false in. And then this last piece of code is get your working directory. This will tell you where it stored your file on your computer. Now I know Macs, my students have more success searching for the file called upload, and just make sure you have it on all files on the whole Mac or something like that, not just an individual folder, and you'll be able to find where it wrote it. So mine tells me it stored it in documents. So let's go take a look. I'm going to go to my documents and wait for it to update. There we go. Okay, so there's my upload file, and check it out. It created a big spreadsheet with the ID number and the sales price for the predictions of every home in the test file. All right, so now that you have that, you go back, you go to Kaggle, just click the link that is in the next page in Canvas. This link right here will take you to our contest. Now, obviously you have to create an account in Kaggle before you can make submissions. So you can work in teams if you know anybody else in the class, or you can work by yourself, that's fine. Since we have R, it's not that hard to work by yourself because it takes about 2 seconds to come up with a model and get your predictions, okay? All right, so you get your team together or yourself, and name your name and Kaggle by your last name separated by commas, please, in alphabetical order. And if it's just you can put your last name, first name. All right, so you'll notice that the original data is found here under the Data tab. And if you scroll down, there's a description of what each of your potential predictors is. So I would encourage you to read through that so you understand what your predictors are. It tells you what a sample submission is supposed to look like. You can download that sample submission and you'll see that it is exactly exactly identical to the file that we have our R code creating for us. So we're good to go. We don't really need to look at that sample submission because I've already given you code to put it in the right format. And then I'm going to go over here to the very right on Submit Predictions, okay? So click Submit Predictions. I'm going to go to my Upload Submission file. Mine went in my Downloads folder, my Documents. It's called Upload. I'm going to do that, and the last thing I want you to do is in this Notes section, I want you to go to your R console, and whatever your model, this fit statement, I want you to copy and paste that into Kaggle and then go Make Submission. So now check out what happens. All right, and on the leaderboard, my name will show up very soon on the leaderboard. So right now we just have some sandbox submissions from ordinary least squares, one model using 7 predictors, one using a method called the random forest, and a quick XGBoost, okay? So the name of the game is to get your name as high as you can on the leaderboard, which is gonna be a lower score because it's the root mean squared log error. All right, and it has something to do with the standard error. So we want it small. At the end of the contest, you will see where you landed on the private leaderboard because you actually only have about half of the test data. And we're going to use the other half to make your final rankings, okay? All right, so that's it to make a prediction in Kaggle. Send me your questions as you have them in a message in Canvas. And I would recommend making your 10 predictions every day. I would go ahead and start today. Just start getting your predictions in. It should only take you about 15 to 20 minutes a day to do that until you're satisfied that you're pretty high on the leaderboard.